Welcome to my dad's car. Enjoy!
Welcome to My Dad's Car, a podcast discussing our personal relationship with automotive nostalgia. And you know what? It doesn't even have to be about your dad's car. It can be your mum's, your grand's, your parents', guardians, or even a neighbour's. If it made an impression, let's talk about it. Hello.
All right, Andy. How are you?
Yeah, I'm okay, yeah. You?
Yeah, I'm wicked, cheers.
Thank you for stepping up at the last minute on this one.
It's all right. Dropouts, especially last minute, it's always difficult, but you've just got to keep rolling somehow. So
John, Lee, John.
Hi, Lee. Sorry to keep you.
Hey, John.
How you doing? All right.
No, all good. Yeah. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, welcome along to My Dad's Car, Lee. You're obviously a fellow podcaster as well. We'll give the 9Werks radio a plug.
I was going to say, Andy, thank you very much to yourself and to John for having us on. And yeah, look, you're right. It's usually the other way around. And you, Andy, are on the 9Werks radio podcast as our guest. So what goes around comes around, hey? Yeah, sure.
On the other foot. Let's jump straight in. So we normally start things off by asking, what's your earliest car memory?
Oof. Okay. Yeah. Earliest car memory. So, well, given the title of the podcast being My Dad's Car.
So we caveat that. It can be about your mums, your grands, your aunts, uncles, neighbours.
Yeah, it definitely is dad-centric for me, I think, like with my upbringing. Okay. Yeah, this episode's almost my dad's van in a way, because he's just always had an affinity with, big boxy vehicles. But he definitely, in a weird and indirect way, has definitely helped with my kind of journey with sports cars. And actually, so first memory, if it's not in one of Dad's vans, it would be we went to like a market back in Colchester, because I'm from Essex originally, and we, after the market, where I think we were looking at like push bikes for me or some old toot that he was rifling through. And there was a Ferrari garage like right next door. Ironically, now it's on the same site as where Porsche Centre Colchester is, and Ferrari moved next door. But the Ferrari garage was there, and I grew up obsessed with like Ferraris and having them on the wall and stuff. But like my first memory of a car that's ingrained into my skull is we popped over to the Ferrari garage afterwards, had a walk around. Obviously, my dad's van is loitering in the background, so I think he was respectful to keep me away, but whilst trying to peer into the window. And somebody from Ferrari Colchester came out and said, would the young man like to sit in the car? And my dad said, yes, please, if you don't mind. So again, I was super young, maybe like 5 or 6 at the time, I would say. I'm sure I was sitting down rather than standing up in the seat, but like all I remember is this massive like black wheel ahead of me with like the yellow button in the middle of the wheel with like the prancing Ferrari horse like almost staring back at me as it felt. I'd never been anywhere near anything like that before, and so that without a doubt, it's certainly the first car memory I choose to remember, put it that way.
Yeah. Have you driven a Ferrari since? Obviously you're very Porsche centric, but
yeah. So I'm very Porsche centric now, aren't I suppose? But yeah, like I like the design of Ferraris, perhaps, if not quite in the way they drive. And actually, a friend maybe about 3 years ago let me drive his 360. And I like definitively had a poster of that car in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of a letdown to drive, to be honest with you. It just, to me, it didn't talk to me in the same way kind of Porsches do. So, I mean, yeah, shows I kind of took the right career path, I suppose. So, but yeah, I can't actually remember like what the actual car was that I sat in. Being kind of mid-90s at the time. I mean, obviously it was like the ubiquitous red paint exterior, but yeah, can't tell you what model it was. I just remember this like big steering wheel, big to me anyway.
Maybe a 355. They were sort of doing the rounds at that point, weren't they, I think?
Yeah, could well have been, to be honest with you. Could well have been. Beautiful, beautiful thing. But, and it's one of them, it's from a yesterworld where there's no kind of pictures on smartphones to remind us of the occasion. It's something, that's just kind of painted in your brain, and that's it, really. Kind of magical in a way.
Yeah.
I think that is quite nice, isn't it? Like you say, because you've only literally got your memory. So if you've had something to refer back to, say you found it, you might actually be a bit disappointed and think, It's actually not that good, is it, when you look at it?
Yeah.
It was only a Mondial.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's a Fiat.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing, the irony is in where the career has gone since, and there's no real room for any other manufacturers in my head is kind of what it feels like. It's all kind of Porsche centric. So I probably wouldn't, even today, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you what model that was, even if it was like looking back at me again, like, kind of, it's 360. I think everybody knows, but kind of beyond that, it does get pretty patchy pretty quickly for me.
So you mentioned vans. Do you know what your dad? What was he? Was he a transit man?
No. Despite us residing in Essex, certainly for all of his life, it was never Fords. It was Mazda vans, actually.
Oh wow, exotic.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing, and it's kind of been a running joke for years. I mean, he was devastated when like they stopped coming over here anyway. And he had like an E2000, the 2 litre, and then the 2200, and the only other people we used to ever see driving Mazda vans were carpet fitters, because they were the only vans long enough to get like the full carpet in without having like the tailgate propped open,
It's funny you say that, because I was literally just about to say, I remember when I was younger, there was a carpet shop in the village.
Yeah.
Sergeant Carpets, not sure if they're still going or not. But they used to have those Mazda vans as well.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, I think from memory, they're the ones, the bumper, which is the thing when I looked at it as a kid, it was almost like a shelf. It looked like you could just put something on it because it kind of came out a little bit.
Yeah. Is exactly it, John. Yeah, great knowledge, to be fair.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Were they a bit like Bedford with like the engine under the seat?
Yeah, exactly it, to be honest. Yeah, exactly it. And I know very well where that engine is, because every summer holidays we used to go to France for a couple of weeks. My mum, my dad, my 2 brothers and I, and we used to take the tent and basically just go kind of touring. As the years went on, again, I was all primary school sort of age and early secondary school, but we kind of start tracing the Loire River. And then the next year we'd go a bit kind of further south. And then one year we ended up in Barcelona. It was the summer of 1998, the year of the World Cup. And we were in La Rochelle, and the van broke down. And I remember my dad at the side of the road. Obviously, he's hauled my mum out the way and he's got the seat up trying to tinker with the engine. In the end, I think it was head gasket or something, but like he couldn't fix at the roadside. Not in a month of Sundays would my dad have taken it to a garage to fix. He's kind of a very proud man, likes to fix everything himself. So they then hired another van with their traveller's checks, bought a rope, and basically towed the van all the way home. And my mum had to I'll say drive, but steer it. Yeah, steer the Mazda. And she was, I mean, to this day, she's got like PTSD over that. And we got pulled over on the way back. So it's a fair old hack from La Rochelle back to Calais when you're, got one hired van towing a knackered Mazda van. And we got pulled over by the gendarme, and they wanted to know what was going on, pointing at the rope. And my dad's just there kind of going, broken. And they're looking around and they said, just one rope. My dad's going, yeah, that'll be fine. And they just went, crazy UK, crazy, and let us go on our way, because we just had this one rope. And my mum was just like, her vision burning into the back of the van and the brake lights of the van in front. And every time those lights come on, having to be pretty sharp on the anchors of the van. And Dad got the van back and fixed it. But that's probably like one of our most memorable holidays in a weird way, But yeah,
I wonder why he had such an issue with the one rope. What do they tow cars with over there? They do it like a horse or something with reins.
Yeah. I don't know, like vaguely they were on about like a metal bar or something,
right? Just
where then you're not gonna lose that gap to the van in front or something. I don't know, but my dad had this one rope, tied it in a knot, and was like, right, we're good to go, we're off. And kind of thought nothing of it really. But you're definitely right, John, about like the shelf on the front. The first one it had, assuming it was a Mark 1, I remember the reg of it, C776 WAC.
Nice.
And that was like very flat bumper. And then those newer ones had that weird shelf, and he put bull bars on it. And actually as well, again, where he likes to kind of tinker with things, he put side windows in the back of the van. So obviously in the front section that's where my mum and dad sat along with the map. And then in the back, that kind of, if you call the middle section where the sliding doors were, he put sliding windows in for us kids. And then he bought off it was a physical auction in those days, way before eBay. He bought like aeroplane seats.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
He bought 3 aeroplane seats, bolted them to the floor. So us kids, obviously, we were strapped in with our lap belts. I mean, first time I went on a plane as well, I was like, oh, I recognise those seats. And we used to sit there with our lap belt and then pull out like the table, and we used to sit there and draw, and that's kind of how we were kept entertained driving all the way through France, basically. So he definitely likes to tinker, but obviously didn't see it coming with the problem with the engine in La Rochelle.
Your mum used to come out in the morning before long trips and do all the old, your exits are here. And...
Yeah, right. Yeah. I think probably psyching herself up for the map reading for the day, because it wasn't her strong point, and my dad's not known for his patience. So you can imagine the conversations that ensued as we're kind of getting lost around Le Mans and everything else.
I wonder if he stuck those windows in for going down the tip or something, because you can take a van to the tip if you've got seats and windows. So,
right. Yeah.
Maybe one to ask him.
Yeah, I will do. It wouldn't surprise me, because that's exactly like my dad. My dad's called Jeff, and it's exactly like him to do things like that, to have a workaround. I know he's got a fantastic reputation and relationship with the local council back in Colchester anyway, for trying to get rid of things that he shouldn't have and whatnot over the years. But he's always just like vans. And the funny thing is, like, before you ask, he's not a carpet fitter by trade. He's definitely fitted carpets in his time, but that's not what he's done. He printed magazines for 30 years. He kind of does bits and bobs like around the house for like friends and whatnot now. But he just liked the Mazda van for its size, because he said, if you can't get it in a Mazda van, you can't get it in anything. So that was his kind of mantra. Obviously, they stopped, I thought, a good 20 years ago, wasn't it? Mazda stopped bringing the vans in to the UK, and he's now got a Fiat Ducato, which is, I mean, it's huge. It's like he needs planning permission every time he wants to drive into a new neighbourhood. But again, like, same mantra, really. He just likes big vehicles, so that if he needs to fit anything big in it, he can.
Ducato's like the motorhome vehicle, isn't it?
That's it. Yeah. Well, funnily enough, he's actually converting.
Well, what's he planning?
He is converting that into a camper, but he kind of got halfway through doing it and is like, fitted out like where the bed's going, even like the basin for the shower and all of this sort of stuff. But then took it all out because my brother moved house. And again, my dad said, well, you're going to need my van. So he took it all out and is now in the process of putting it all back. I don't think he'll ever get away and use it. We recently went to Norway on a big road trip, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly. And it was really nice then. It was just my dad and I for 8 days, speaking about many things as you do in that scenario. And I said to him then, I doubt you'll ever actually get away in that van, because you always find an excuse to take everything out and use it for silly things like tip runs or whatever, So, yeah.
He needs a backup. Needs a second van tied behind on a rope.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely had the experience of that.
Get a little Bedford Rascal or something. Just throw that behind.
Yeah.
Like a sort of lifeboat thingy, isn't it? Equivalent.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I'm presuming your mum does drive. It wasn't just a case that she was the only one who could reach the pedals, and so she was given that job.
Yeah. My mum does drive. Like, she's not. I wouldn't describe as a passionate driver by any stretch of the imagination. My mum and my dad actually, alongside their van a good few years back, had a little red BMW 3 Series, which is an early memory, but not my earliest, in answer to your early question. And, that was kind of my mum's hack, which she loved. And she's always said, I've never loved a car as much as that little 3 Series. But, these days it's a little mini. It's not a Mini One. What's the long version? Is it the Countryman?
Clubman.
Could be.
Clubman's like the estate.
Yes, the Clubman. Yes, one of those god awful thing, and that's my mum's words, not my own. But not very passionate about driving at all, really. So
your dad took a bit of the shine off that with his cross-continent tour.
To be honest, without a doubt, yeah. Like there's absolutely no question of that, really. And even if they're popping somewhere, even if it'd be like a wedding, like my dad would want to take the van, and my mum would be like, I'm not. She's basically just spent like 35 years of suffering going to places she doesn't want to go in this van, basically, in various vans of descriptions from my dad. So. But as I say, kind of cars, certainly sports cars, never, ever, ever on the agenda growing up. It was just kind of an object of aspiration and desire as a child, But, it was vans for my dad. And again, I remember like us going to Truck Fest back in the day, and my dad just being mesmerised by all these, like artwork along cabins and lorry bodies and everything else, So that was definitely more his bag.
Has he got aspirations of kind of truck driving? Has he seen sort of Smoking the Bandit or whatever and thought, I fancy a bit of the old long distance trucker convoy?
Yeah, again, that's quite possibly, Andy, quite possibly. I don't know. I mean, it was just never particularly interested in kind of sports cars. And we spoke about it. So I did a video for 9Werks TV when we drove across to Norway. Yeah, if you've not seen it, definitely check it out. It's called Travels with My Father. And so on these like 3,500 miles, it was actually at the start, I interviewed him as part of the video and said, what's your kind of opinion on sports cars? And he said then he had a penchant for Jaguars, but that was kind of it. And I said, assuming it'd be the E-Type. And he said then, to be honest, no, because it was the owners of E-Types that put him off. You'd go to a car show, or he would go to a car show back in the day, go to like peer into an E-Type and take a look. And he's obviously been burned at some stage by a couple of owners that have said, keep out the way, stay away, and don't touch. And his sentiment was, you're not going to touch somebody else's car anyway, but like, you don't need to be told as a grown adult. So it kind of put him off. But that was his only kind of dalliance really with any sort of kind of sports car infatuation.
Yeah. Do you remember any sort of music when you were traveling in the van? Was he steering wheel tapper, radio listener, singer-alonger?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, like definitely, like he'll murder any song on request without a doubt. But he always had Capital Gold on, whether he was in the van or not. I don't think he can get it these days. But like anything that kind of like 1960s, 1970s era that Capital Gold would cover, he'd be all over it. And then of course not just that, but on Sundays when he'd be ferrying us back from a football match of some description, it would have the football coverage on, and Tony Gale would be doing the commentary, and it would always be up like blaringly loud. It was like he was going deaf at the age of 40, 50, Is
that 1548?
It could well be, I don't know.
I swear it was 1548, because I think we used to listen to it as well on Saturdays for the football, as you say.
Yeah.
I think it was Tony Gale, and I think it's Jonathan Pierce, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah, because I think were you Sid Cup then, John?
No, I wasn't actually. I was Bolton Regis.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And it wasn't a great. It was never a great quality of feed, because I guess
agreed.
It wasn't local to where I lived, so it'd always be quite sort of a lot of hissing and stuff going.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah, really bad signal, like loads of static, definitely. But I mean, it always struck me like listening to like the odd advert or whatever. They'd always talk about Kent. So obviously, getting older, I'd realised that my dad had just basically got lucky in the signal stretching over the Thames estuary to Essex, basically. And he was living the dream that way. But no, in answer to the question, Andy, he'd always like kind of be happy to murder any song, really. He'll give it his best shot, that's for sure.
But one question that probably ties in quite nicely with your long journey to Norway, I can't remember where this crept up. It might have been with Tim, previous podcast, but we were saying about if you've got like a delicate conversation to have with someone in the car is somewhere where you kind of can do it because you're sort of facing forward. And say you have got a delicate topic to broach, would you do it at the start of the journey or maybe at the end, depending on? Great
question. To be fair, yeah. So on this road trip, as I said, 8 days, 3,500 miles. So there was a lot of time in the car. And the first week, really, the first like 6 days, best of, it was just all about like, first, we just wanted to get to Norway. It was a 9Werks tour, so I was kind of orchestrating it. So I was kind of a little bit in work mode, if you like, and my dad was kind of, along for the ride. Fantastic occasion, again, covered in the video where, because he, as you can imagine in driving vans, right, and this is just a slight detraction here, but in driving vans, he's the slowest driver you'll ever meet. Ever. And like, again, going back to France, we're driving along the auto route and there would be just like lorries overtaking us. And then just when like the back of the lorry gets in front of the van, he'd give them the flash so that they could like then tuck in front. And we would just sit there rolling our eyes, being like, we're not in a HGV here. We're in a van, for crying out loud, But he tells everyone he drives everywhere at 90 in his defense, but he does mean kilometers. It's 56 mile an hour and not a mile more. And that's kind of, that's what he does. So again, he's not used to driving fast. So on the Autobahn on the way over, he fell asleep and I thought, he's my chance to get a tow down. So I'd got up to about 1:30 in my 996, and he woke up and he kind of crapped himself, for want of a better word, basically. It was telling us to slow down. So like, yeah, he's like, he's not a fast driver at all. So there was some stern words had there. That was kind of the only time we had stern words, or I was told off again, and I felt like I was 12, 13 again. But like, otherwise we were just like completely enjoying the adventure, and I think we both mutually appreciated how special that journey was. I know I did. Like, it meant a hell of a lot to me to be able to take my dad away on that sort of trip, to show him my work and kind of what I do, for one thing, to go to a lovely part of the world and meet some fantastic people who I've been lucky enough to meet previously. It was all fantastic. He's given me so many great memories and adventures in my life. So it meant a lot to me to be able to kind of do that for him. So that was cool. So I would say we were just completely caught up in the adventure and everything that beautiful, beautiful Norway has to offer and everything else. So it wasn't until, say, the last day, we'd probably run out of things to talk about by that point, right? So yeah, as you say, John, in a car, it's kind of a nice place to have what could be a delicate or difficult conversation, because you're not facing each other, you're both facing forward, and that kind of diffuses the intensity of the situation, doesn't it, in conversation? And we did have a bit of a chat, actually, like particularly about like my dad's life growing up, very, very, very working class, a roots and background that I'm extremely proud of. And yeah, again, like growing up, like my parents they gave my two brothers and I the most amazing childhoods, right? They sacrificed so that we could have things. And so I suppose their kind of attention was always really on us. And it's not until you get older, right, where as an adult, and then not that I have kids, but, you have your own kids, I suppose. And just, at your age, you start to then look back on not just your childhood, but, what were my parents' childhood like? And realised I'd never really asked him, I suppose. So, apart from like the odd anecdote here and there, all the way back on the last day, so through, Germany, the Netherlands and France, we just spoke a hell of a lot about my dad's childhood, and it put a lot of colour into his life pre my arrival, but also actually added a lot of colour into how and why he is like he is today. Do you know what I mean? So it was very wholesome, I would say, without any shadow of a doubt, one of the very best things I've done in my life. And I know it will take on more importance and significance under the march of time. It's quite natural. There's some bits we filmed, and I knew doing this little video that it would be a bit of an insight into kind of my relationship with my dad and stuff. And I wanted that. I feel like the personal stories are endearing, right? But like I say, there was a lot that was away from the camera naturally that I think I'll always kind of cherish, really. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they say you only sort of understand why people do stuff when you then go back into their situation and go, oh, yeah, if you'd have had that upbringing, you'd have done the same. John and I both lost our dads. For me, at least, it's nice to hear that people are spending quality time with their fathers and their parents, because obviously that's something we can't do. Yeah. So knowing that actually, you're kind of out there doing that and making time for them, because it's very easy to go, actually, I'll go and see them next week. But sometimes next week doesn't come. Definitely. And I think that's the thing. Like, I'm very aware. Look, at the end of the day, none of us are promised tomorrow, are we? And I've certainly learned it's a privilege to get old. But, that said, it is about making the most of everybody that's in your life while we're all here, and that definitely extends to your parents. Again, as I've got older, I've realised how lucky I have been to have both of them around, like, to this day. And it's important to do things like that. And again, like my relationship with my dad, and to an extent my mum, actually, very jokey, always taking the mickey out of one another and stuff. So actually it was nice, again, which I think that kind of car environment promotes, to be able to kind of, force you to stop and kind of, just have a proper chat, really, as not necessarily father to son, but adult to adult. It was a different sort of dynamic in that regard. And it was lovely. And again, Andy, you'll especially know, my thoughts on cars. They're just special things, no matter what it is, and present so many different opportunities for people and allows you to go anywhere and everything else. And again, us sitting in a car, a vehicle, gave like my dad and I all of those very special memories. I just, cars are amazing, basically, Was your dad one for, obviously, you mentioned the two vans. Were they ones he'd buy from a dealership, or was he sort of flicking through the free ads, post office window.
Yeah, exactly that. Like any which way he could find them, to be honest with you. Yeah, he'd never go and buy anything new. It's not in his nature or DNA. So it would be, a van he's bought off a bloke down the pub, or an ad that he's found in the back of a newspaper. And he's a nutter, like I would say 5 years ago, he came down to Dorset to visit me for the day, and he brought his trailer with him. And I thought he was keen to come down and visit. I thought, what's this all about? But he turned up with his van and a trailer, and he said, I've bought a van off eBay. I was okay, all right then. So he's gone, and why he wanted this other one, I think he just wanted the engine out of it to put in a different one to sell on the side. He was never going to use it. And he's turned up to collect the van. And then the next minute, he's got a coin out and he's trying to flip the guy for like the final 50 quid, heads or tails. And the guy's going, it's an auction. What you've bid on, you win now. I'm not doing it. And my dad's like, look, but come on, come on. Are you feeling lucky? It's a Friday, heads or tails? And I'm just standing there thinking, I want the ground to swallow me up. The guy did it. He relented and he did it. He lost. So he's had 50 quid knocked off of him. My dad gets his van on the trailer and then turns around. I've met my dad there, by the way, because it was just outside sort of Bournemouth where I was. And he puts the van on and we're down this cul-de-sac. And then he just said to the guy, well, I'm going to pop off into Bournemouth for the day with my son. You don't mind if I just leave my van here, do you? And the guy's standing there like thinking, who is this guy? So all day after this guy has basically pulled his pants down for 50 quid, he's then got the van he's just sold on the trailer next to my dad's van, like literally at the end of his garden all day. And I just thought, Dad, what are you doing? But
you didn't then drive off in a Porsche just to rub extra salt into the...
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, I picked him up in my 911 at the time, and off we went into Bournemouth for the day and went back. And I was just like, Dad, you're a nutter. And he goes, it's all good fun, isn't it? It's all good fun. It's just, a nightmare. But yeah, another good memory around cars, actually, it has to be said.
Fantastic.
I've never heard of that one before, the old coin toss.
Yeah. No need for it, to be fair. If somebody did that to me, I'd be fuming. And funny enough, I think if somebody did it to him, he'd be fuming as well, But he's by the same thing, like he has done a lot of favors for people over the years. I mean, he's, again, very old school in his friends and the way he acts. So again, another thing that comes to mind, he was coming to pick up I had a Volkswagen Polo at the time. My first car, I was down in Dorset for university, and the car had broke down. And, my AA was my dad, basically. So I called out Dad and said, car's knackered. So again, he's put the trailer on the van, travelled down to Dorset. And as it turns out, the van broke down just outside Bournemouth. So this was probably around 2009, 2010. And I travelled out to him. He's got this old school phone, still to this day. It's like a Nokia 3210, basically. And I got there and I was just like, what on earth are we going to do? You've come down to collect my broken car. I'm in my friend's Say It Leon, by the way. And I said, yeah, you've come down to collect my car. Your van is now broken down. Like, this is just a bit of a scenario. So he said, well, you two go. That's me, my friend Guy. You two just go. I've got a mate coming down. And basically what happens, he's pulled over at the side of the road. The van's knackered. He called me to let me know where he was. I've travelled out to him thinking, I don't know how I can help, but I'll just, loiter with intent or whatever, keep him company while we work out what we're going to do. And basically in that time, he'd called his best friend on his home telephone, which just doesn't happen anymore. And he said, Simon, it's Jeff. I've broken down. I'm just outside Bournemouth. I'm on the A31. And Simon said, all right, no problem. I'm at home. Give me 3 and a bit, maybe 4 hours, and I'll be with you. And my dad said, thanks very much. I've got the trailer because I was meant to be picking up my son's car, but evidently we'll put my van on the back of that and you can tow it home. And Simon said, yeah, no problem. And that was it. Put the phone down, job done, and sat at the side of the road. And my dad was saying to myself and Guy, you guys go out, you're students, you'll probably want to be on the beer somewhere, go and crack on. I didn't want to leave my dad at the side of the road. So we sat there until 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. And sure enough, Simon turned up, put the van on and went. And you just think, how amazing is that? The drop of a hat, your friend would just do basically an 8-hour round trip to come and rescue you.
That's insane.
It's unheard of these days, it's completely unheard of. But to go back to it, he has done.
You're breaking up, Jeff. I can't hear you.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Well, he lived at the back, so that would have been awkward. But my dad has always done favors for people. That's his way of kind of showing love and friendship, I suppose. And again, he's got a big van. He's got an even bigger garage, full of toot. But in there, he's got a compressor and a spray gun. And for years, like all my life, I just remember him either spraying his vans, or he sprayed 2 of my cars, or he'd spray cars for friends. Like no problem, no questions asked. There was no like particular setup. And I think it's a world away from like an oven today and environmentally friendly water-based paint and everything else. Just the amount of times I remember him calling up Jowl Paints in the Midlands and saying, I need 2-pack with primer and thinners in whatever colour. And then he would basically just like hang up this tarpaulin around the back of his garage at one end, put a car in there, sand it down, primer it up, paint it, and off it'd go, and it's always for friends. And actually, I'll try and get hold of it. It might be good for your social media. He's got a picture of when he was really young, evidently could drive at the time, but I would say it was maybe early 20s, living in Whittam. And he was bored one day, so he spray painted his van in the road. And he's got a picture of his van in the road, newspaper all over it in different bits, bits of paint along the curb and whatever. But this it was like a bright yellow van or something. So he's just always painted cars and helped people out. If they wanted a colour change, he'd be your man, Very, really bizarre, actually.
I bet those aerosol smells still live with you now, don't they?
Yeah, 100%. And actually, like you go into his garage and then you look all the way along the far side, all the way down. You've got all of these old tins of Jowl paint that he's washed out, and they're full of like nuts, bolts, washers, just typical, you'll collect it even though you'll never need it and all this sort of stuff.
How it should be.
Yeah. He would argue otherwise without a doubt. But like my first car, I had a Mark IV Polo. Loved it, really big into the VW scene, as Andy knows. And I went to a scrapyard, found some like 16 valve bumpers for the rear, and then I made like this hybrid Mark IV and Mark V front bumper for the Polo, and was like, okay, I want a color change. It was white anyway, but I went for it was Arctic white. It was a Mercedes color of, again, 2010, when every car was white.
Yeah.
And it was that sort of, it almost had like a hint of grey in it. But he painted that, and we spent a week kind of smoothing bumpers, smoothing out the aerial and, the bump strips, all of this sort of stuff, and then painting it. And I have to say, again, like some of the warmest memories I can recall was just basically spending a week with my dad where he didn't need to go to work, just painting this car. Fantastic. And then again, a couple of years later, I had a Mark I MX-5. It was a Unos Roadster, the Japanese version. That was black with red leather. And I wanted it sprayed BMW Pepper White, which is like essentially like a beige colour. A lot of the Minis and that were painted that sort of colour around 2011, 2012.
Okay.
And again, he painted that for me. And, if you put it up close to other cars, if you go into, your Volkswagen shows at the time, like Edition 38, it looked great from a distance, but nothing like some of what the other guys were doing. But I reasoned that the other guys and girls had spent thousands on it, whereas I'd, had a fantastic week with my dad. So I kind of won in that regard, really.
Yeah.
The big thing with my dad and cars, really, and kind of definitely in relation to the podcast, is just as much about painting them as it was driving them,
Was he a fan of car washing?
I feel like he needs to come on the podcast because I'm throwing him under the bus like, all day long here, and I love it. But like, and he's not, again, like not in the slightest. And actually, I went back. I recently sold a Cayenne, which was my daily, and it was absolutely filthy. This was probably just before Christmas. I'll tell you when it was. It was in between Christmas and New Year, so I was visiting, and I said, I'm just going to pop outside and clean the Cayenne. And he said, yeah, I can help with that. No problem. Brought along like a bucket. And like, if you see a sponge these days, you think, oh, hang on a minute, alarm bells here. There's a big red flag.
Cowboy.
Yeah, exactly that, John. Yeah. Well, never mind the sponge. He basically pulled up like a big, like a stiff brush. And he was like, what we can do is we can just dunk that in the bucket and then we'll just go up the side of the Cayenne and just get all the crap off. And I was like, Dad, you're not going anywhere near my Cayenne with that massive broom. It's not happening. So, yeah, like I now know that's his version of cleaning things. And then likewise as well, like he does when he's like sold vans down the years, he's very kind of he likes it presented nicely, but like he'll just get like old bottles of like Jif and Sif and just go over all like the doors and everything with that. And it's just like, yeah. And he's going, it smells great, doesn't it? And I'm thinking, I don't know, Dad. It's not heard water glim, is it? I'm definitely throwing him under the bus here, but
He sounds like the sort of character that might like to use some pledge, Andy, on the bodywork.
Yeah. Yeah, we had Pledge come up the other week.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Someone's nan, would just do the whole car in Pledge.
Oh, no way. Oh, that's awful. There's another one I remember. This was my youngest brother, and my dad had like a little can of SAS spray. And my brother asked him one day, what's that all about? What does SAS mean? And he said, it's Saturday and Sunday. You can only use that on the weekends. And for quite a while, an embarrassingly long time, my brother was led to believe that this thing only worked on the weekend. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah. One of many treasures in my old man's garage, I think. Yeah.
That's, it's good. I was going to ask something. It's gone. No. It's beating me, whatever it was.
I've exhausted you boys.
You've exhausted me.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I don't know. It's quite a cathartic experience, to be honest. Like, it's been really nice kind of having a chat on the podcast, because both my parents to me are my heroes, to be quite honest with you. And any time spent with them is absolutely quality, fantastic time. So it's really nice, kind of remembering all these lovely memories. Actually, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's definitely a shame kind of my mum doesn't feature in too many of them from like an automotive point of view, but there are some fantastic memories there. And again, just like, I remember something that's really stuck with me from day one. Passed my driving test at age 17. My mum and dad had this VW Polo ready and waiting for us, which was fantastic. And he said, Lee, the world opens up to you when you've got a set of wheels. And it probably wouldn't have understood the gravitas of that at the time in saying that, but I just think that's so true. And it's what I love about driving over any other mode of transport is, any three of us now, or anybody listening to this podcast, we can drive off our drive and we can go anywhere in the world we choose, anywhere. And I just think that's very magical. And particularly what I've done with my job, it's just rung true. You can go anywhere, you can do anything, and the people you meet all through this conduit of a motor vehicle. Like I say, I think that's kind of central to me as to why cars are so special. And it was just kind of, my dad planted that seed from day one of being on the road, really.
Nice.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a really cool place to leave it. So thank you very much, Super Sub Lee Sibley.
No, my pleasure. Thanks. Thanks for having us on last minute. And thanks for listening to my ramblings, to be honest. I do appreciate I've probably gone on a little bit, but as I say, a fantastic experience. So thank you.
No, it's good fun. And some really nice stories. And our first kind of van centric, not even a whiff of a BX.
No Cavaliers, no BX.
No. I mean, it's the thing with vans, isn't it? They don't half get in the way on the road, but the reality is we do need them. They keep the economy moving. They help people, move, whether it's house or whatever it is. So I think, I've definitely, some people live out of them, don't they? Or go on holiday in them as we did. So it's, the Swiss Army knife of the motorway, really, unfortunately.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you very much, Lee.
Cheers, Lee. Nice to meet you.
Nice one, gents. Take care.
Cool. There we go.
Nice. Very vanny.
It was, isn't it? But some nice tales.
Yeah, definitely. And some good reminders to have a good old chinwag with your dad when you can about stuff that you might not necessarily sort of touch the surface on.
Yeah, chatting to your parents and kind of the people about their background, their upbringing and all those sort of things.
It's nice as well that obviously he's an adult now, so he's doing adult stuff with his dad.
Yeah.
Just sort of rung a bell in my head when my dad popped off. I hadn't really sort of experienced, I never really went down the pub. Well, I didn't go down the pub with him because I was at that age where you just start drinking. So when you're that age, you don't sort of think, oh, let's go down the pub with dad, do you? You go down with your mates and stuff. But obviously as you get older, you realise that, well, that'd be quite a nice...
Yeah, quiet one on a Sunday, it'd be quite nice, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, different tempo and...
but that's good.
Yeah, I'm not sure what number that is, but it was good all the same.
Yeah, definitely. Another step closer to season 3.
Ian Wright and Jensen Button, double header.
Very good.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who's been listening, tuning in, supporting us. yeah, here's the next one.
See you on the next.
We'll roll the credits and off we go. Thanks for listening to My Dad's Car Podcast. If you have enjoyed this episode, please click subscribe, leave us a review and follow us on social media. If you'd like to support us further, you can buy us a coffee or sign up to give us a monthly bump start. You'll find details on our website, mydadscar.co.uk. Bye for now.